significant on a global scale. This is emissions, annual emissions from a number of different countries. Here's the U.S. This is from 2001. China is actually now up with the U.S. They have 4 times as many people, so it might be understandable. Here's the Northeast. If the Northeast were a country, it would be the 7th highest emitting country. So these 9 states, so New England, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, those 9 states together emit more in a year than all but 6 countries in the U.S. So here below, you know, just behind India and Canada and above, just behind India and Germany and above Canada and the UK and many other nations. So if you look at where that comes from, transportation is a big piece, electric power, each of those is about 1/3. Commercial, residential, industrial are the other pieces. So the bad thing is we're a big part of the problem. The good thing is that means that what we do here in the Northeast has a big impact on global emissions. We can't solve this problem alone, but it turns out we can be a big part of the solution. In part because of our emissions, and in part because we have historically been a leader in innovation. If you think about technical innovation, you think about the universities we have in Massachusetts, or you think about financial innovation, think about policy innovation, you know, in terms of what we've done on energy efficiency or renewable energy. There's a lot that's come out of this region, so we can be part of the solution, and I certainly hope we are. I'm going to focus, of these areas, I'm just going to focus briefly on electric power because I work in the energy group. Does anybody know what our #1 resource when it comes to electricity is? What's cheaper than wind energy, cheaper than natural gas, cheaper than coal, cheaper than hydro? Anybody know? No, it turns out that's pretty expensive actually, and getting more expensive every day. The #1 resource, energy efficiency. This is really the low-hanging fruit when it comes to addressing the emissions from our electricity sector. This is something, any of you who know me know my passion for compact fluorescent lights. There is so much already out there that is so cheap. If you think of it as a resource, you compare it to what a new coal-fired power plant, which has been the cheapest option. It is just so much. It is far and away cheaper. And you know, there are no siting battles when it comes to changing out your light bulbs. You don't have to worry about permits. None of that stuff. I mean, it is just so easy. And you think about the components we already have out here. Hobbit gave a talk, was it last month, on hybrid vehicles. You think about Energy Star appliances. You think about programmable thermostats or light bulbs. And I do think about light bulbs. And then you think about how you put those together and how you build your buildings and how you insulate them and what you put in them. And I hope you all will come back for the talk next month on zero energy homes. Or this is the Genzyme Center in Cambridge, which is an amazing building in terms of how it uses energy, how it uses water, which obviously has energy implications, how it reclaims its water. So there's a whole lot already available in energy efficiency. Think about renewable energy. Anybody know what I'm talking about when I'm talking renewable energy? Solar is one. What's another one? Wind energy. Any others?
Geothermal.
Hydro, geothermal. What else? Tidal. Somebody say? Yeah. What else?
Biomass.
Biomass. That's a good one. Fact. So wind, biomass. So that's where you take crops or trees, or waste. It could be waste products or crops that are specially grown, and you gasify them or you burn them directly, and you make electricity out of it. Yes, that emits carbon dioxide, but those plants absorb the carbon dioxide when they were growing. So it can really be on balance close to a zero emitting resource. Solar. This is actually our offices in Cambridge. We have solar on our roof there. Don't tell the utility company that. And that's some solar thermal electric, which is a different technology, not the solar energy. So this is obviously very small, but this is what we're talking about: solar electric power, and then there's solar thermal electric, and solar hot water on your house. If any of you have that, that's a renewable resource. And why? One of the interesting things about energy efficiency and renewable energy is that they make sense even if you don't care about climate change. Again, even if what you care about is the economics. If you think about it, renewable energy, we'll focus on that, locally available. This is not something we have to import from other nations or other parts of the country. whether those nations are friendly or hostile, which we know we're obviously dependent when it comes to our oil and our gas, even some of our coal. We're tied into the international markets for that. Renewable energy is right here. You know, the wind comes to us, the sun is right here, the biomass, we can grow here. Those are great resources right here in Massachusetts. If you think about energy security, again, reducing our dependence on imports. Think about fuel diversity. We're very dependent in this region on natural gas for our electricity, so that means we're very tied to the price of natural gas for our electricity prices, and we've seen some of that here with Reading Light. Think about savings. It turns out the more renewable energy, if we get up to having, there's talk in Congress of having a requirement to get up to 15 or 20% of our renewable energy across the U.S. from renewable electricity. Turns out that takes pressure off of natural gas and other fossil fuel supplies. That actually brings down the price. So there's money to be had, even though people tend to think of these as expensive technologies. And obviously there are environmental implications. Again, even if you don't care about climate change, by reducing our fossil fuel use, that has significant implications for sulfur dioxide or nitrous oxide, all these things that contribute to smog or to acid rain or asthma. So if you put all those together, I'll show you a graph. This is U.S. carbon emissions over the next 25 or 30 years. This is from the American Solar Energy Society's projections about where we could go. This is the business as usual case up here. Turns out energy efficient, this is the 80% path, the path that gets us on to the 80% reductions that science says is the minimum we need to do to stabilize our climate. So it turns out energy efficiency, whether it's in the electricity sector, the transportation sector, can get us a long way toward our goals. And then you think about the role that wind and biofuels and biomass and solar and geothermal, and that can about get us there. And this doesn't include offshore wind, which some of you may have heard a thing or two about, or wave and tidal energies, which are still under development, or hydro that can be done in a responsible way. So there are tremendous opportunities there. Here's another thing that gives us hope. Does anybody know what these 10 states have gotten together to do? What crazy thing they're embarking on January 1st, 2009?
Regional
Matt?
greenhouse.
That's right, Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, known as RGGI. So what that is, it's an agreement between these 10 states to start to deal with our climate problem, not economy-wide, but to focus on power plants as a leading contributor of carbon dioxide. And what it does is, what these 10 states have agreed on is a regional cap. So then they're going to sort of allow power plants to trade within themselves, but basically they cap and then it reduces at 10% by the year 2019. It's not a particularly aggressive program, but what it is, it's the first program of its kind in the U.S. So the first attempt to put a price on carbon, to say, hey, this is something we care about. Let's get serious about it. Let's create a market, create the market drivers to get us on the path for where we need to go. So that's launching January 1st, and it's going to be quite something. And if you look across the U.S., now we have RGGI in the Northeast. We have the Western governors, a number of Western states getting together to do something similar, and Midwestern governors recently announced. So you have, and then you have a number of states, I think 19 states that have their own state-level plans, greenhouse gas targets, emissions reductions targets. So there's a lot going on in the U.S. And then if you look at the federal level, again, so this is the range that scientists tell us we need to get at. At a minimum, we need to stabilize at about 450 parts per million. So you look, there are a whole lot of proposals in Congress, a number of bills that would get us reducing. Most of those are out of the range, but there are some that would get us within that range. The one you may, if you've heard anything about it, there's one that's co-sponsored by Senators Lieberman and Warner, that because they were co-chairs of the committee that had to consider this, that stands the best chance. It doesn't get us to the 80% yet, but it's got a lot of good pieces in it, and my colleagues are working hard to move that along through the Senate and the House. So I think it's clear there's good news and bad news when it comes to reducing the Northeast emissions. If you think about the bad news, one is the inertia. So there's the inertia in the climate system that we've already talked about. There's also the inertia in our society. Last year there were 159 coal plants on the drawing board or under construction in the U.S. The number we need to get to for conventional coal plants is 0. The good news is that a lot of those coal plants have since fallen by the wayside. You've had major U.S. companies standing up before the State of the Union last year, the day before the State of the Union, saying, hey, we care about climate, we want to be regulated, we want the government to send us a clear signal. We need to make our business decisions, we need to nail this down. So you had all these major Fortune 100 companies standing together with environmental groups and saying, let's do something about that. So that gives us hope. If you think about other good news, you see all the proposals that are happening, things that are already going on, things that are in the works for doing something about this. So there's good news and bad news, and obviously there's a lot more climate awareness. I mean, 2 years ago, I expected a lot of you didn't know nearly as much about climate change as you do now. So there are people like us who are conscious of this and who care enough to come out on a Thursday evening of a holiday week to talk about this. So there is a lot of good news out there. Let me go back to this. So I mentioned a higher emission scenario is not a ceiling, the lower emission scenario not a floor, and that we need to be on the 80%, on the path to reduce 80% by 2050. Well, somebody did the math on that, and it turns out that's 3% per year. 3% per year. If you break it down, that starts to sound doable. If you think about the technologies we already have, the technologies that are off the shelf that we could put into place tomorrow to get us on that path, whether it's hybrid cars or light bulbs or insulation for our houses. There's so much stuff that we can do today, and obviously there are all kinds of people out there working on inventing new things to get us farther down that path. So we could be moving down that path 3% per year. Let me talk. There are a number of lists out there, and I'll just give you one. This isn't necessarily the top 10 list, but this is 10 things that right here in North Reading you could be doing to do something about carbon. The first thing is, and different people have different lists. The first thing is think carbon. When you're making decisions, particularly when you're making decisions about what you're going to buy, if it's a big ticket item, something that you're going to have for a number of years, think carbon. Let that figure into your calculations. So it's a lot easier to make the right decision once.
What do you mean think carbon? You mean like not NSTAR, what are they? Energy efficient.
That's right.
That's really what to think of, not.
That's right. Okay. When you go to buy a new refrigerator, you have a choice.
Yeah.
You can buy a regular one that meets the minimum efficiency standards, or you can buy an Energy Star one that's more expensive, maybe more expensive, but obviously has lower carbon impacts. And here again, no surprise, the economics come into it. It can save you money.
Yeah. Thank you.
So start having carbon be part of your calculations when you're making decisions. It's a lot easier to make the right decision once than to have to make the right decision every day. So if you buy the right kind of car, if you buy a hybrid car, if that's or a car that gets 40 miles per gallon, a conventional car, that's an easier thing than to think about how you use that car, how you drive that car. But Hobbit would tell you, and other people would tell you, you still need to do those things too. So drive change. If you think about it, cars are one of the major ways that we contribute to greenhouse gas pollution. So if you think about it, when you're buying your car, you think about how you maintain that car. You keep it tuned up, you keep the tires inflated, you drive 55 or 65, you take, there are lots of things you can do that will reduce the climate change impact of that, of your driving habits. Oh, and including carpooling, sorry, and not driving your car when you can. And Energy Star, shoot for the star. Energy Star, again, when you're out buying an appliance, look for that label because, again, it has implications for your finances as well as your carbon footprint. Change a light bulb, no surprise, I think if you know me, but that's on the list. In fact, I have some. If you're not familiar with them, I have some. I'd be happy to give you. Just see me afterwards.